The pushback on this just seems so odd. If a community, so do governments have to purchase this? So if they're buying it from China, then they're having to pay for it, right? So why not just eliminate this? Why not just eliminate the cost? Tell everybody to start mouthwash. It seems like one of the biggest proponents you could get on your side is like Crest, right? Like say, hey, add this into the mouthwash and start pushing it. Tell people that what they need is they just need mouthwash and they're not going to get their cavities, right? You just add it into the mouthwash and it's fine rather than, because we're removing it out of the drinking water. I mean, what is the holdup with them? If the overwhelming science is you just need to mouthwash with this, it just needs to be topical. If a lot of the science, even if it's a small amount of the science, but any science that shows that this is harmful to your brain or to the developing brain of your child seems like a no-brainer to then say, we shouldn't be adding this anymore. Let's just not do this.
And I should be, to be fair to the Centers for Disease Control, Oral Health Division, and proponents of fluoridation, which I feel I should be, okay, they would say, well, yes, fluoride's benefit is predominantly topical, but guess what? The water is a great way of delivering topical fluoride. You're bathing your teeth in topical fluoride every day. That's their current position, okay? but it still begs the question, even if, and the science on this is extremely weak on their end for benefits of fluoridation now, but even if there was a slight topical benefit from fluoridated water, the fact remains you don't need to put it in your water to get that topical benefit, So it still doesn't justify, from my vantage point, adding it to an uncontrolled. Basically, you're adding it not only to your water, but all processed foods and beverages made with the water. We have an overexposure problem with fluoride today. And interestingly, Kim, you can see the overexposure problem. Do you know how?
How?
On kids' teeth. Because fluoride, when you ingest too much of it growing up, it creates a condition called dental fluorosis, which manifests in typically white streaks or splotches on the teeth. And that is caused by fluoride interfering with the tooth forming cells. And in its more severe conditions, it turns yellow, brown, and sometimes black. And so it can be a disfiguring condition, but most kids have it in its milder stages. But any dental fluorosis is a visible sign of overexposure.
So this is like the white splotchy teeth.
Yes.
I've seen this before, not on myself, but I've seen this on others, and it's because they drank fluoride as kids. And this is something so you'd have to have that at a young age. Like I wouldn't get it now drinking water, fluoridated water as an adult.
That's correct. And the classic sign of fluorosis, when you know it's fluorosis, front to upper teeth, okay? And you see the snow capping on the teeth. That is classic fluorosis, okay? And one of the major predictors and causes of fluorosis on the permanent upper front teeth, okay, is bottle feeding. Giving babies formula that's made up with fluoridated water. And that's one of the most susceptible populations to fluoride toxicity in our country, is formula-fed babies, because they are getting such a large dose by body weight. They have the largest dose by body weight of all age groups in the population if you give them formula made with fluoridated water. And it's manifested in part by dental fluorosis.
Makes sense. It's the only thing they eat. Right? Mm-hmm. Little babies, the only thing they eat is they drink. That's it. That's the only thing they do. They don't eat. And if you're giving them formula, so if they're not breastfed at all, and then you have to mix it with water. And so they're getting a higher consumption rate of that water than anybody else.
And here's an interesting fact for you. When you formula feed a baby with fluoridated water, you flip nature on its head in the sense that breast milk contains extremely low levels of fluoride. Now, typically with breast milk, it's going to give you all the stuff you need, right?
Right.
So fluoride's absence from breast milk is notable, right? Like nature is actually kind of keeping fluoride away from the newborn baby. So a breastfed infant receives the lowest dose of fluoride of all age groups in the population by far. But when you formula feed them with fluoridated water, they become the highest exposed age group in the population.
Oh, interesting. So it doesn't transfer. So if the mother is drinking a lot of fluoridated water, she's living here in LA, just gulping that stuff, it doesn't make it into the breast milk.
There's a plasma breast milk barrier with fluoride where it's basically it reduces it substantially. So even if you're drinking high levels of fluoride, it's still going to be low levels in your breast milk.
Isn't that telling right there that the body doesn't want it to be passed on to an infant? If the body is preventing it from getting it through, then shouldn't that say something to these people that want to continue fluoridating the water?
I think it certainly speaks to this is not something you need to swallow. It's not something that's essential. And at best, it's a medication that could be beneficial therapeutically, but do you want the water supply to be your source for delivering it?
Right. And I think there seems to be a lot writing on this case, but I know with cases, I always get so frustrated because they're often, like with the mandate, for example, when the vaccine mandates were reversed, when many of them were reversed, it was on a technicality of some kind, or it wasn't on the merits of the actual, because this is unconstitutional to do to people. It was based on oh, well, it wasn't, fair. You only made some people do it, not, something like that. In this case, I mean, if you win, which I hope you do, because whether even if fluoride is perfectly safe, if they want to push that and believe that, I just don't want them medicating my water. That's what. It doesn't matter what the medication is. I don't care how beneficial it is for me. Do not medicate my water. Mm-hmm. I will take a medication if I want to take a medication. Stay out of it. Even if you think, oh, it's for your own good, I don't care. It's not your business, right? That's my business. So if you win, will it set that precedent as well? Or is this just on the merit of, but fluoride is not good, so don't do fluoride?
Well, if the court rules that there's an unreasonable risk, then the EPA has to eliminate that risk. They have to
fluoride.
Fluoride.
But this isn't. Right,
I see. I mean, in terms of the larger question about using water supply for medication. No, this case would not speak to that issue. I would say, though, Kim, one thing to note is that the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is a federal statute enforced by the EPA, has a provision in it that specifically prohibits the EPA from requiring the addition of medicine to the water supply. Okay, so we should keep that in mind. That is in the.
Well, then why doesn't that apply to fluoride?
Because it's not the federal government that's doing it. The EPA can't do it, but local health boards can do it. State governments can do it, but the EPA can't.
What a loophole. I mean, how is that even possible? I mean, if there seems to be so there's a federal law that says you cannot add, but then the localities are allowed to?
Yes.
So I can be poisoned by my mayor. I just can't be poisoned by my president.
The mayor has the right to do that. And but the federal government doesn't mandate fluoridation, but the reality is they are the biggest pushers of it, right? Like the CDC spends millions of dollars each year promoting fluoridation. They pay private organizations to go out and promote fluoridation, right? So the federal government isn't requiring you to drink fluoride in your water, but they're doing everything possible to encourage your state and your local health bodies to order that you do.
I just don't understand how there could be a federal, what is it called? The Safe Drinking
Water Act.
How does that not apply to every other level of a government?
Because it's just a limitation on the EPA's power. It's not a limitation on the power of local government, state government.
Seems like then everybody would want to adopt that. Oh man, there's so many layers that we have to think about. It's just this to protect ourselves from really government overreach in a lot of ways, and to protect our health. It just feels like, you could get something like the mandates, for example, on the federal level. You could maybe get them to reverse them for federal employees, but you can't. But then you'd have to do it on every level of government below that. Right. So you have to keep pushing. Then it's got to happen. It just seems like so much work to have to get this at every single layer. I mean, I'm big on the federation. I think it's great that we have individuals and state rights. But at the same time, when it comes to this type of thing, then it's like, oh man, we just won one battle at one level, but then we got to win it at another level. But
Right.
if you win at this level, this means everybody, or what? What does that mean? Can a municipality still go
No,
ahead and fluoridate?
no. If we win and the EPA does what logic would seem to dictate, namely, if their obligation is to eliminate the risk posed by fluoridation chemicals, then the obvious way of doing that is to ban this practice. If EPA makes that decision, okay, then no municipality, even if it wants to, can fluoridate its water because EPA is the highest, would be the highest authority on that issue. So that's the potential that we have right now. A
Yeah.
favorable court decision triggers a rulemaking proceeding by EPA, and if EPA at the end of that rulemaking proceeding decides to ban fluoridation, every community in this country will stop adding this to water overnight.
Why can't they do that for everything then? If they have the Safe Drinking Water Act, why can't they say you can't add anything to water? Yep, we're banning it.
Well, I think that goes back to we do need to add some stuff to the water. Okay,
Sure,
like chlorine is the biggest example, or chlorine. You need to deal with the bacteria so that people
sure.
aren't getting sick. But I certainly think we've talked about this that fluoride does not need to be because it doesn't
Right.
treat the water.
Well, right. Why can't they just ban anything that isn't directly treating the water, like any other additive that people just, if these governments are like, oh, I got a bright idea. I heard about this and it's going to cure cancer. Like, let's try it on our people.
Right.
And then lo and behold, we find out that it actually causes rampant cancer, right? 10 years down the line, that type of thing, just some kind of protection. But, well, interesting. Is there anything that we're missing here? I think this was a great conversation. I really learned a lot. I know that hopefully everybody watching also learned a lot. I certainly don't want to drink fluoride anymore. I'm going to have to start really looking into this. To be honest with you, I'm so ignorant on this topic. I really thought that fluoride had been banned long ago. I assumed that they weren't doing this because it seems odd.
I would just add, Kim, because we know we've been speaking a lot about the brain, which is where a lot of the focus in the research is. But I would just say that there are a couple of other really key health concerns with fluoride today. One of which is bone fractures, particularly hip fractures. Fluoride, we know fluoride, there's no dispute that fluoride weakens bone, period. It's proven, no dispute. The question is the dose, but there are high quality studies, including one from Sweden 2 years ago, that found that optimal levels of fluoride in the water increase the rate of hip fracture in postmenopausal women. So that's one significant concern.
Well, and that kills. If you break your hip and at a certain age, you're going to die. There's like a big chance.
So that's one big concern. Another big concern is thyroid disease. Fluoride, we think about fluoride as a drug for cavities and teeth. Mm-hmm. Fluoride was once used as a drug to reduce thyroid function. If you had hyperthyroidism, overactive thyroid, fluoride was used to bring it down. And the concern today is that fluoride may be contributing to hypothyroidism, underactive thyroid, which is a real problem today in the United States. A lot of women particularly have it. So there's a thyroid concern. So it's not just it's not just the effects on the brain. That's the focus of our case.
Sure.
And one other effect is arthritis. Osteoarthritis is we know that fluoride can cause osteoarthritis. We know that for a fact. No dispute about it. The question is the dose, and there is good evidence to indicate that Americans are getting enough fluoride to cause arthritis.
And you would have to consume it at any age in order to have those effects?
Yes, that's not limited to being a kid.
Well, I don't want arthritis and I don't want to break my hip. Nor do I want hypothyroidism. Is that what makes you fatter? Which one is it that makes you fatter? Hypo or hyper?
Hypothyroidism. The other thing is if you know anyone with kidney disease, okay, especially someone with dialysis, okay, they do not want to be drinking fluoridated water. That's the one population. If I had the ability to specifically notify and alert one population, well, formula-fed babies, pregnant mothers, okay, and people with kidney disease. Because if you have kidney disease, you have a very impaired ability to excrete this stuff from your body, and it builds up.
Hmm.
And, you know, one of the things, because of the suppression of science in the early days, one of the things I read, I spent a lot of time reading about this, and it was really bothered me a lot. But in the 1970s, it came to light that dialysis patients were suffering this crippling bone disease called osteomalacia, fluoride-induced osteomalacia. It's a softening of the bone, very painful disease, because the dialysis centers were not removing fluoridated water at the time, and they were being poisoned with fluoride, these dialysis patients. Now they stopped. The dialysis centers now remove a fluoride from the dialysate, okay? But if you're drinking fluoridated water, as you know, and you're someone with advanced kidney disease, you're an at-risk population. So
Yeah.
if you have family members with kidney disease, I would suggest spring water, bottled water, non-fluoridated water. That's a major at-risk population for fluoride, and the government has completely abandoned them. No one from the government ever, despite knowing they're at risk, no one has done anything to educate, notify, or alert that very vulnerable population. No one, nothing. They've just been left on their own. And that's just something, Kim, that I spent a lot of time reading about that. It's very bothering to me. The government's adding this to the water. There should be an obligation to notify people who are at risk, pregnant mothers, bottle-fed babies, kidney patients. And there's no effort to do that. None. People are left to fend for themselves. No information on that from government health bodies.
And all to prevent tooth decay. That's the I just see I mean, it's one thing if it was, like, something really debilitating, terrible cancer or whatever it is, right? But it's just tooth decay. I mean, it's so bizarre. I hope you win. Good luck to you. When will you get a ruling back, do you think? So, how long is the trial? What do you expect?
The trial is 2 weeks. It starts tomorrow, the January 31st. And people, if they want to watch it, it's going to be live streamed through the court's website. So if you go to the Northern District of California, you should be able to watch the Zoom proceeding live. But it goes for 2 weeks. And then I don't know when the court's going to issue its decision, but I would think within approximately a month, but you never can sort of tell. But I would say within that time frame.
Wow. Well, good luck to you. I'll definitely have the link to the live stream down below so that people can check that out. And then, we'll just keep we'll keep watching with bated breath on whether or not, when that ruling comes out, and hopefully it's in your favor. You feel confident? You feel good?
I think we're in a very good position. I
Yeah.
think we're in a very good position.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Thank you so much for joining us and educating us on this. I had no idea. This was very eye-opening for me. I was going to go get a drink of water after this, but now a little bit, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to go and, I try not to drink bottled water because of all there's so many plastic bottles. I try not to do that. So I might have to look into ordering some spring water and having that set up somewhere.
You can get 5-gallon jugs of glass bottles, so you don't having plastic, and that's the best because you don't have BPBA or whatever.
Right. Yeah, now I'm gonna have to research this. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Best of luck. Go get them.
Thank you, Kim. It's great being on.